Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be across this beautiful blue-green globe of ours. Welcome to Real News Live. It is a Toxically Masculine Tuesday edition. I'm your host, Mike Barrett, in Las Vegas, Nevada, drinking a little Crown Royal Black tonight. It's not even whiskey and wisdom night, and I'm drinking. Sorry about that, Steve Doran. I know, because you got the big C, you can't really drink much alcohol, but you know
That's
what?
all right.
When medbeds
You know
come,
what?
it's a real
You know what
thing.
though? I still manufacture it.
Yeah, and we're gonna get you drinking lots of alcohol after we get everything fixed. Okay, we are actually trying to a new thing on Rumble. I don't know if we're live yet. We're live, guys. It fucking worked.
Nice.
We are live over there on Rumble, on my Rumble channel, I believe. Real News Live with Mike and Jen. It's actually working, although we were not able. I was not able to get any preview. See, it's weird. We've been having some issues, folks. Let me just go tell everybody in my Telegram group that I'm live, and we will get back to it. Anyway, I am joined, as I often am, on Tuesday nights by the usual crew of TV's Blake Wally, Steve Doran, the Trail Boss. But tonight, Brooks couldn't make it, so instead we have Brain. Brain, why don't you tell us, Brain, what you're doing, where you are, and what the fuck are you drinking?
What's up, Mike? I am in a vehicle, so I am drinking Gatorade, good sir. I just left one stand-up comedy gig, and I'm parked 7 houses from the next comedy gig doing some stand-up. I'm on week 3 doing that, but of course you and I, we do strictly football every week, but this is the first week we're not going to do it now.
No,
we're going to have a couple weeks off before the draft show, free agency show, and then a draft show. So it's good to be here. Thanks for the invite. Happy to fill in.
We'll do a free agent frenzy show, and then we'll do a draft show. We can include TV's Blake. Well, I think Blake needs to come in, and when we do our first round mock draft, he needs to be the pick for the Vikings. What we'll do is set it up so that we all pick. Steve couldn't.
I would actually like to propose trading Myles Garrett to the Vikings. I want J.J. McCarthy and 2 full years of draft picks back in return. That's what I would like to propose to Blake and the Vikings right now.
Now, look, I know that you are doing stand-up. I have a joke for you. Would you like?
Let's go. I'm all ears.
This joke is so good that when I put it in a script, which I had an agent in Hollywood for a while doing, trying to sell my scripts. Turned out they just stole all the funny stuff out of my scripts. But it ended up in a Will Ferrell movie. But this is my joke from like 1986. There you go. Yeah. All right. So you want this joke? Try it out tonight.
Let's go.
Do you know why a washing machine is better to have than a woman?
Why is a washing machine better to have than a woman, Mike?
Because a washing machine doesn't follow you around for a month after you drop a load in it.
Oh.
Masculine. Remember, girls, ladies, this is TMT. All right, I'm also joined tonight by one of my favorite people on the entire planet, the guy who's always got my back, the guy who is so tough. I shot him in the face once, and he's still here. You're not even a scar. Steve Doran, the Trail Boss. Looks like you're somewhere in Arkansas. Steve, how you doing
somewhere
tonight?
In Arkansas. We got a snowstorm going on.
Tell us what feminine drink you're drinking tonight. What are you drinking?
Grape juice.
Grape juice.
100% not from concentrate. Grape juice.
100% not for that. Well, that's important. So it's real grape juice then.
Correct.
It's real.
But hey, that's why I'm the picture of health. That's why I'm getting better. That's why everything is good.
Yeah, I actually drove by a wine bar here in Vegas on Sahara. It's calling itself the Crush Pad, and I'm like, oh, Crush Pad. It's a wine bar. That's where you put the grapes when you crush them to make wine out of them, right? That's correct. Do you know? I see a vineyard in your future in Arkansas. I think you're going to have the finest Arkansas wine.
For years, I've been making whiskey, wine, rum, and brandy.
Wow.
You'll see when you come out for Christmas. We'll keep you liquored up the whole time you're here.
All right, sounds good. Hopefully, I'll be through a med bed by then, and my stomach can handle it. TV's Blake Wally, the 4th member of the crew, usual member. TV's Blake Wally. How you doing tonight? When does the strip club open, and how many girls do you think you're going to have on a Tuesday? Probably not a lot, right?
Yeah, it's a Tuesday night and it's really chilly out, so it's gonna be tough. But we're hoping to get the party started at 10. But we shall see. You know how it goes. Yeah, Tuesday nights can be tough, but I'm having a great night. I'm glad to be here, and I'm gonna be drinking a little Maker's Mark 46.
Still working on that bottle. Yeah, I'm still working on this Crown Royal bottle. I've been drinking out of it for a while. I don't drink much whiskey at it.
Yeah, for me it's just Tuesday. Yeah,
I'm not that.
Hey, 46 is an underrated bourbon. That's a pretty solid bourbon. It's under the radar. Really nice.
For a few extra bucks, it's
Steve.
So,
Probably
Mike, are you still mixing your whiskey with Dr. Pepper?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Which See, people drink whiskey with Coke and stuff, so why not just Dr. Pepper?
Well, wait a minute. We have a friend, and his name is Harold. Yes. This year, he's going to be 104 years old. He still takes care of his kids. He still takes care of himself, still drives, goes to the grocery store, all that kind of stuff. When you ask him what added to his longevity, he actually drinks Dr. Pepper with brandy in it every day.
Yeah. Well, cleans
it's
out
what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, just doctor.
You got a 104-year-old guy who's driving around and shopping, and then his taking care of his children who are like in their 80s or whatever. I would say Dr. Pepper's a pretty good play.
How old is he?
He's going to be 104 this year.
104. That brings up something we're going to talk about later. He may be one of the few people that they found in Social Security over 100 years old that actually is really alive receiving his Social Security.
Mike. I did a set tonight, and I had the two oldest people, older than the United States, more than 249 years old, and they held their own press conference. One was Mitch McConnell, and the other was Joe Biden. They were vampires, immortal vampires. That was part of my set tonight. So yes, great segue. Awesome.
There we go. Yeah, tell my joke. It's a good one. All right. We had another plane crash yesterday, and, we're going to talk about this here in a second. So let's get this guy up on the screen, and forgive me, it's going to be a little clunky tonight on the video presentations. But this is a Canadair regional jet coming in, different model than the one that got hit by the helicopter, coming in for a landing at Toronto's airport. I forget the name, but I landed there many times. It's coming in awfully hot. Flaps are not down.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. Tower, you're seeing this airplane just crash into Greek. Oh my god. Oh my god. Well, hold shit. Come on, take that out.
So, of course, let's watch it one more time. I want to.
523. Come on, take that out.
Insane.
Oh fuck. Oh fuck. Oh no.
All right. Gonna go back. Guys, this, of course, the liberals are trying to blame this on Donald Trump. By the way, Trump man and Elon. There we are. Trump man and Elon.
Well, wasn't it a Canadian crew? It was a Canadian crew, wasn't it?
It would, but this is a Delta Airlines flight, and I just want to point out to everybody, this is pinned TikTok video on Delta's TikTok account. Here we go.
Did somebody say slave? Did somebody say slave?
Two girl pilots, all girl ground crew. I just gotta say, Delta is flaunting their DEI stance, and their plane went down. Now, I don't know who the pilots of this flight are yet. This is something I have to determine. And by the way, why does it say TV's play, Wally? I still say TV's Blake Wally here. How do I change my name?
Henceforth, you shall be known as TV's Blake Wally the second.
Yes. Yeah. All right, now I'm Mike Bear.
Oh.
I'm not a pilot, but I am an aerospace engineer, and I've worked on planes. In fact, I've seen, drawings from that plane and used them, and worked on another plane. It doesn't look to me like the flaps were down. Now, it seems to me that the plane would be going a lot faster. In order to land properly, the flaps need to be down because that slows the airplane down and generates enough lift. It looks like this plane came in way too hot. The landing gear collapsed. I call that 100% pilot error. So what do you think? I'm going to start with you, Steve Doran. What do you think, man? I mean, again, I'm going to go look and see who the pilots were. I'm going to do that while you're talking. But what are the chances this is another DEI catastrophe? People being hired because of the color of their skin or the shape of their genitals as opposed to their skills and ability for very, very important jobs.
Well, as I have said many times, you need to hire somebody because of their abilities, not because of their lack of abilities or the fact, the other thing is because they're Canadian, and everybody's going to hate me for this, but if it's a tenured pilot, he was probably drunk because, he came in like a jet fighter, trying to avoid flak on shots coming in from the enemy, and you could clearly see that the plane was moving way too quickly for the conditions.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious. In fact, I got another video here of it. I don't think this is the same video. Let me rewind it.
He was on some strange.
Holy shit! I'm right. Yeah, let's go back. I'm going to show this again. Holy shit! I'm right. Sorry, Steve. You can't stop when I'm doing something, Steve. You got to keep talking.
Oh well, I heard you talking, so I thought you were explaining something.
Close up. I want you
guys. If you have any dead air to fill, I can fill dead air. You just give me the signal. Right?
You just do that. Okay, I want you to look at the wings. The leading edge slats should be down. That's the curvy things, and the flaps should be down. And as I look at this video, I do not see the flaps deployed. No, the wings are this idiot came in way too hot. The landing gear collapsed. The plane rolled over. Miraculously, nobody was injured. Those flaps are not down. And so that
look at the angle that he hit and how hard.
Yeah. And the right landing gear collapses. So could it be, folks, that the pilot, whoever it was, and I'm not saying it was, a person of color or a woman, forgot to deploy the flaps? Holy shit, that looks bizarre. I don't know.
Which is really strange because they have all these warnings that come on in the cockpit. If they miss something, a warning sounds that they need to get their ass in gear and correct it. So that makes it even worse.
Right. And here's the thing. I don't know, Brian, Blake, if we had Brooks here, it's a bad night for Brooks. Brooks is not on the show because he had some other personal stuff to take care of tonight. But any thoughts about this? And Delta refuses to tell us who the pilots are. Maybe because his pilot's name is Nadine and he's transitioning from Nathan. Brian, hit it, man. What do you think about this thing? And do you think it's going to end up being another controversy?
Well, I have two questions about it, honestly. I saw Tyler Fisher, the comedian, does one of the great Trump impressions of our time. And he said, he put a video out earlier and said, hey, remember when Delta banned me from flying on their airlines forever because of a joke that I made? Well, they seem to be prioritizing all the wrong things. The priority is to land your plane properly, safely, but they're worried about offensive jokes and they're putting out videos. And it seems like if they're taking 2% of their training efforts away and redirecting them toward irrelevant matters, what's relevant is taking off safely and landing safely. That's it. That is the entirety of what you need to focus on. Then there is a little bit of smoke where there could be fire on the Delta thing. I'm not entirely certain. I'm willing to unpack it and take a look. The second point, has it been released who the Black Hawk pilot was that went into the Potomac? Why are they hiding the name of this pilot? Why is this not instantly known?
Yes,
Where
that
there's
was the
smoke,
female.
could there be fire?
Yeah, that was a female Black Hawk, the Black Hawk.
Okay, and I saw that reported weeks ago, but it wasn't confirmed, and then I never saw an official.
It is now.
But they slow walked it. They dragged it out for weeks, which makes me a little suspicious.
Because she was acting as the captain, and she only had 450 hours of flight.
Yeah, she shouldn't have been in that area. And
well, those are my first two points, and my last one is just this: what is the likelihood that a foreign actor, some sort of malicious influence, is getting into our air traffic control systems and messing things up? I guess a lot of these components come from China, so I'm wondering, could any of this stuff be hacked, and could these actually be attacks on the United States? Very soft attacks, not very overt. But could there be covert attacks on our airlines? It seems like there's been an awful lot of these in a few weeks.
Yes to that answer, but there's a lot of planes in the air that are still analog technology, basically. They have the old pitot tubes, and everything is just the dials and gauges, and they can be flown very safely that way. It's not that chicks can't fly planes, Jen. It's that there are far fewer female pilots than there are male pilots. A lot of them have been promoted. In reality, been promoted because of DEI programs in the last 15 years. And most men are a lot more experienced pilots than women are. And I will just tell you that two things bother me about this, which is what you just said, Brian. Number one, they're not telling us who the pilots were, which makes me think there's a DEI aspect to this. It makes me very suspicious. There's no reason, at least as far as I know, there's no release of the pilots' names, and that is 100% pilot error, because you cannot land a plane without the flaps down. Blake, any opinions or anything you want to add to this part of the conversation?
Well, I would definitely agree with you guys. I would have assumed some of those were more automated, as Steve says, and it's hard to believe that they could have made that big of an error unless they're possibly covering up for a DEI hire. But I also am intrigued by Brian's opinion that it could be some kind of terror attack, and that is almost like the plot out of Die Hard 2, when they do crash a plane because they can't see the ground and they're depending on someone to guide them in, and they were deliberately trying to terroristically crash their plane, so they didn't know by the time the ground got up on them. But there's no reason for them to be going in that fast at that angle, and it was just kind of inevitable. So that was a really crazy disaster. So I don't know how they can try to blame that on Trump somehow. It's clearly pilot error or perhaps a terror.
Okay, they are now saying, I did find another thing, that it is a male pilot named Jonathan Simpson.
Okay.
And you still fucked up. And people are saying, well, it was weather related. There was ice buildup on the wings. If there's ice buildup on the wings, you shouldn't be taking off and landing. You shouldn't be. You should go somewhere where it's warmer. So that's very interesting. We shall see about that.
The thing is,
but let me add one point. Go ahead, Steve.
Nobody's saying that women pilots are useless or that they can't be as competent as male pilots. What we're saying is that in a lot of cases they're promoting, like the captain who crashed into the airliner that killed 67 people on board. They're promoting them. They're not competent. They don't have any experience. And they're promoting them just because they're women or they're gay or they're transgender, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
There are a lot of wonderful, competent women pilots out there, but, they have dropped the standard to get them into positions they should not be in.
Mm-hmm. Especially when
it's just simple economics of supply and demand. You can only get so many great quarterbacks to draft in the first round that went to a Big Ten school. You don't limit yourself to all of the options available. And you go, I can't take Shadur Sanders. He didn't go to a Big Ten school. Can't take Cam Ward. He didn't go to a Big Ten school. You take the best player available. That's what a merit-based economy, a merit-based society is supposed to be about. But when it comes, good.
No, I was going to say another example is the Super Bowl. We had a woman referee in the Super Bowl. You didn't notice her because she didn't call anything. There shouldn't be any women referees in the NFL. And the simple reason is they're not as good as another man that's out there that should be there. And the reason for that is that 99% of the football referees at all levels, from Pop Warner up to the NFL, are male. So the odds that and there's 4 or 5 female refs now in the NFL. So the odds that these 4 or 5 women are better than the 99% of the men at the Pop Warner level are not very good. The odds that they're better referees than 99% of the men at the high school level are not very good. The odds that they're better than 99% of the men at the college level are 0. And the odds that they're better than thousands of other male referees who've been doing it for years and years and years that are trying to get into the NFL are absolutely 0. They're hired simply because they're women, and the NFL wants to sell the game to women. So luckily, they haven't done a lot of damage. But I've some of the worst calls I've seen in the last 5 years have been from the female refs. So
it's a lot like the Brady Bunch.
Based on merit. You need to move forward based on real merit without lowering the standards. So these things are important.
Yeah, when do those refs start? Do they they play at a collegiate level or a Pop Warner level? I would think most of those other refs, they've done it their whole lives. So where the women
you have, and all these women are look to be in their 30s, 20s or 30s, because a woman in her 40s or 50s, like a man, let's be honest, Steve, a man in his 40s or 50s can still run up and down the field and do all the things athletically he needs to do to keep up with the game. A woman in her 40s or 50s is not going to be able to referee at an NFL level and move around like a guy is. So they've hired these younger women who have a lot less experience. There's a lot of college refs who probably dreamed about being in the NFL, and they're not allowed in. And that's why DEI is wrong, and it lowers the standards. Now, that's not a big deal when it's a sport. It could be a big deal when it's an airplane. So
everything needs to be based on competence and experience.
Yep.
There is nothing worse. I mean, I remember going to work at Los Alamos. I'll use that because it was my most recent huge job. But anyway, you get some, no joke, some 21-year-old girl out of college, and she's like, "Yay, team! Come on, team, let's do this." And she's a supervisor. It's like, go to hell. It's like you don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
she wants to be this cheerleader and send all these "Yay, team" freaking emails. And it's like, why don't you get out there? Why don't you shut your mouth, get with somebody that knows what they're doing, and get some experience? Nobody wants to hear you run your mouth. And fortunately, I was in a position where I could not be fired at that time.
Yeah.
I was like, don't email me and don't talk to me, because you don't even have the experience and the wherewithal to know you know nothing, and you don't want to learn anything. You just want to do this "hey team" crap and cheerlead. That's not the job. The job is getting out there, getting dirty, mixing it up and getting answers.
And there are certain jobs that men do, and men should do them because they're physically demanding and dangerous. And I'm going to say firemen, police.
Yep.
It's just the reality of it.
It is the reality. I mean, all you got to do, you look at these exhibitions that go on all the time, and they'll have some little skinny guy who literally can't do much of anything physically. They'll put him in the ring with these buff women who work out all the time and take karate and all this other nonsense.
Yeah.
And he will pound them into a greasy spot within a matter of minutes. Yeah. And then when the fight is over, it's like, oh, he cheated. What do you mean he cheated? Yeah. You want to get in the ring with him. You got in the ring with him. He beat the crap out of you. You're the so-called expert badass. And then you want to complain that he cheated. He didn't cheat. You just don't. Women cannot compete physically with men. I don't care what anybody says. It can't be done.
I'm sure there's a woman out there who could kick my ass. I'm sure there is. But
no, look, and there are anomalies, guys. There are anomalies, and there are exceptional people. We don't need mediocre males.
The ones that inject steroids, like, and basically convert themselves into a guy, have a chance. I'm telling you, I've worked as a police my whole career. I have never. The only time a woman can arrest a man is when he wants to go to jail. If he resists in any way, shape, or form, they are toast. Yeah. And they just get the snot kicked out of them, and then they're calling for backup, or, oh, could you come help me? It's like, hey, you're making the same money I am. Have at it.
Well, okay.
You know what? And people say that I'm a jerk for that, but you know what? I don't know how many women's lives I've saved, because I'm like, okay, one of the day you ain't going to have me with you. Do it. And then they decide that it isn't the job for them, and they go somewhere else.
All right. Obviously, I've touched a nerve with this subject. I was just going to have a little light conversation about DEI.
No, but there's a lot to unpack here, Mike, because I saw Kid Rock. I saw Kid Rock on with. Go ahead.
No, I'm just sick and tired of people. It's like, you watch these movies, and you got some little chick who's kicking the crap out of 18 guys because she thinks and people believe that bullshit.
It's ridiculous. The most dangerous thing is that girls see these movies and think that they can do this, and even if they go to training and learn a little kung fu, that they can fight some guy who's twice as big as them.
Well, do you remember?
You can't. Okay, if a man is coming after you, either shoot him with the gun that your dad bought you, or fucking run. Okay, because they need an equalizer. I mean, I remember watching a thing on television that was even better. These girls went and trained for like 7 months in some karate, and their instructor said, hey, they're ready for anything. They can take on anything. So they go in a room and they're going to take on somebody my size. You want to know the only thing the guy did? He lifted them up off the ground, and they were absolutely helpless. They could do nothing. He didn't even touch him. He just picked them up. So don't think that, just because they do it in the movies, you can do it on the street. That's right.
Well, the point I was trying to wrap this up with was just that I saw Kid Rock on with Bill Maher, and he said DEI turns into IED. These things explode in your face. Look, you don't want mediocre men competing against women in sports, obviously. Fine. If any other group member wants to jump into something else, if all you're looking for is exceptional talent. But what happens is they're looking for the Brady Bunch. You got 9 squares on the screen. You need one to represent each demographic group. And it's like, that's not how reality works. You get the pool that you're given, and you get the best fish from that pool. And you don't mess around when it comes to health and safety. The one point I just wanted to throw out there, though, is that Elon Musk, one of the guys who's tasked, one of the biggest parts of the Trump administration in the first month, he has a very unique skill set when it comes to whatever you call it, geospatial, this, that, and the other, GPS and automated vehicles and air traffic control and flight patterns. Our systems in aviation are apparently really old, 50, 60, 70 years antiquated. And this would be a great time to reevaluate. Are we running the proper software? Are we doing the right training? Because you're supposed to be exceptional to be a pilot. You're not just supposed to be some sort of checklist thing that gets a gold star. Hey, I crossed somebody else off of a random demographic group. Don't I get points for that? No, you don't. You get points for landing the vehicle safely. And all I want is competence. That's all I want is extreme competence.
Right. Okay. So this transitions to the next subject I would like to go to, which is that Candace Owens, who is a really good investigative reporter, but goes off the deep end a little bit, has been posting recently about Emmanuel Macron, the president of France's wife. And she's found this. This is pretty fucking bizarre. Apparently, and we know this happens a lot in politics, Macron's wife, Brigitte, used to be, I don't know, Brad, I don't know who, but there are multiple pictures out there showing that this person used to be a man, and there's even a statement where they interviewed what is it? They interviewed where is Candace's account? She has some posts here where they interviewed their daughter, who said something along the lines of, I'm really tired of all this. discussion about my mom, but I think she might be a man. And the story gets even more bizarre because what Owen says in the report is that not only was this a guy, but he groomed Macron, and as a pet, he was older than Macron, and Brigitte is a pedo, and that Macron is more like a controlled victim of this person. Blake, did you catch up on this story at all? You got any comments? I'm going to go to you first. This is in your lap, buddy.
I know of it. I think I have saved the file because I do want to watch that eventually, The Becoming Brigitte. I just wasn't ready to go down that rabbit hole, but I believe Candace Owens. She is very smart. She is ruthless and she is fearless about covering this. And she has put her whole reputation on the line, journalistic integrity. And she's been doing this for months. So I would tend to believe her. And I think this falls in line with what I believe anyway, is that a lot of these politicians, it's the easiest way to control them is through blackmail. And it appears Macron's wife is actually, his 20 years, it was his former teacher, I believe. And he's like 20 years older.
Yeah.
He used to be a man, and then now he's pretending to be the wife. So that's a pretty serious scandal, and it's finally, I think, broken through the mainstream in France because of Candace Owens.
Yeah, Macron is definitely the bottom here in this relationship. Steve, let's assume this is true. What should happen about it besides exposing it? And should Macron just be forced to resign over this because he's been lying then to everyone in France? Would he have ever been elected if he said, by the way, my wife used to be a man and these are my fake kids, they're not my kids? Isn't that fraud, election fraud? And shouldn't there be consequences for that?
Well, I think on a moral perspective that there should be consequences. I think that anybody who commits fraud that is in an elective office should be removed from that office. But in today's day and age, they're just going to say, well, he identifies as a woman. My children identify as my children. I didn't lie. And so just because he is a man, he doesn't identify as that. And that's what's going to happen when that's how they skirt the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Brain, any thoughts on this one?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, there have been questions about Justin Trudeau. There have been questions about Barack Hussein Obama. There have been questions about Chucky Schumer. There have been a lot of questions.
Chuck Schumer's wife is a dude. It's a dude. I'm just going to tell you, it's a fucking dude. I'll show the picture if you want to see it. It's a dude. Go ahead.
Fine. Show the picture, Mike. I'm sure all of our viewers want to see this. No, but there's something going on. I don't fully understand what the obsession is in the ruling class with this issue, with this topic, with, you kind of touched on it. If you're controllable, if you can kind of, look, I understand it, but we have to finally start addressing all of these things. Joan Rivers talked about Michelle Obama, and a couple of weeks later, she wasn't with us on this earth anymore. Well, is that coincidental, or was there something to that? Was she telling a story she wasn't supposed to tell? I have a lot of questions here. I agree with Blake that, Candace, she's pretty dogged. She's very sharp when it comes to rooting out these stories and finding them. And she has staked her entire reputation on this story. That carries a little bit of weight. That's not everything. Am I fully convinced? That's not the only picture, Mike. On that picture, I'd say the glasses look the most the same, although some of the rest does. But I've seen other pictures that appear to be even more damning side by sides. However, I'm willing to keep learning about this situation more. But there seems to be a strange obsession with this topic, with the ruling class. And you see people like Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer comes out with the dumbest words you've ever heard in all of the United States government, as if he has a gun to his head being blackmailed. I'm not saying he is, but he sure sounds like a guy that is.
Yeah, you asked for it. You got it, Brian. There it is, Chuck Schumer's wife. And Chuck Schumer also talks to an invisible dog on the Senate floor. We saw him do that, and his wife is a dude. Here's why the ruling class does this. Because it is a satanic undermining of God's natural order of men and women being intertwined and together and needing each other. They do this gender bending stuff because God's natural laws say that there's male and there's female and they should be together. So that's why they do it, because they're all satanic fucks. Everyone who has one of these, not real. I mean, it's not normal. Okay, it's not normal to want to be with someone like that and lie to the whole world.
It's the most aberrant behavior there is. There's no. Yeah. I mean, the reason God made men and women, and the reason that men should be at least attracted to women, is because they are the fair sex, right? They smell good, they look good, they're fun to be around. They're totally different than us. I mean, who wants to get in bed with some hairy ass dude that stinks? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
you've got to be mentally freaking ill to want to do that.
Right.
It's the most disgusting thing. It's the most disgusting thing I can think of.
We're lucky that any woman ever does with us. We know how lucky we are.
It's basically an affront against God's will and God's creation. And that's why they sexually mutilate themselves in order to make this happen. And that's the reality.
And it doesn't happen. It doesn't. They what they cut off, what they tuck in, they're always going to be a dude.
A dude, right?
Well, I heard the rumors that Michelle and Barack are breaking up, and I'm curious to see if that actually happens. The rumors on Jimmy Kimmel that Jennifer Aniston will be the one that broke up the marriage. We'll see what they're pushing next.
There's also rumors that Jennifer Aniston is a dude. Those have been around for 20 years. I don't think I quite believe that, but there's rumors there. Blake, any thoughts on this before we move on to some politics or something? This show got off to a weird start. It's my fault for picking the topics, but
it's my fault for showing up. Maybe I brought this upon us.
I think it was
blame
you.
Me.
Actually, yeah,
blame me.
Well, to be fair, okay, so I don't think for gay people it's like a choice per se, and I think in the political world, they know, especially in more classical times, that there's no way that they're possibly going to get elected as a homosexual. So some of these are probably, they do set up these political marriages, whether it's, Barack and Michelle, or maybe even Bill and Hillary. Some say she's a lesbian. I mean, I don't care what they do. As long as they're good people, I don't care. And I understand that. But it is still like you're perpetuating massive fraud on your people. So that is and it's just politically embarrassing for France to realize that their leader is, married to a dude that's 20 years his senior, or that Castro Justin Trudeau is Fidel Castro's illegitimate kid.
Yeah. That's absolutely. So many. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And here's the thing: Richard Grenell is been a cabinet level member of the Trump administration, and he's a special envoy now. He's gay. He's a good guy. He's an American. He's not mentally ill. If he's in bed with a dude, he's mentally ill. Well, okay, Steve.
I'm serious. You cannot tell me that all the stuff that goes against all the natural laws, that this guy is freaking normal if he's sleeping with a dude. You're freaking insane.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Let's see. Where was I going to go? Oh, yeah. I was going to go to the Doge live tracker. All right. Moving on to Doge and what they've been doing. There's now a Doge live tracker on Polymarket, which is a really interesting site, and they keep track of all the billions of dollars saved by Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency. It is now at $55 billion they've saved by canceling contracts, terminating employees, giving signing bonuses, and that is up to $366.67 per U.S. taxpayer. 500 days remaining, so you can catch that on the Poly Market. Just type in Doge Tracker, and it's really interesting because the next thing they're going to go to, gentlemen, is Elon Musk proposed that they now audit the gold in Fort Knox. And wow, isn't that interesting? Because just out of curiosity, there have been reports before this came out that the UK has been sending billions of dollars worth of gold to the US in the last 3 days. It's been reported on multiple different sites. And the interesting thing is there's this video. Let's go back here, and I'm going to pull this video up that was put out that talks about, is there really any gold in Fort Knox? It's about 3 or 4 minutes. I don't know if we'll sit through the whole thing, but
It's a good video.
Let's watch this and see what we think.
Naturally, gold prices immediately began to soar. 9 years later, gold sold for $880 per ounce, 25 times what the gold in Fort Knox was sold for. One would think that eventually someone in the government would get wind of what was happening and blow the whistle. The largest fortune in the history of the world stolen. Shades of the old James Bond film, Goldfinger. Well, as a matter of fact, Ian Fleming, the author of the James Bond series, was head of the British counterintelligence service, MI5.
Some believe in the intelligence community that he wrote much of his fiction as a warning, as many authors of fiction do.
If the removal of all the good delivery gold from Fort Knox can be viewed as a deliberate raid on the U.S. Treasury, then such an operation might well have been years in the making, namely 40 years. Certainly enough time for Fleming to get wind of it and try to prevent it.
So just how did the story of the Fort Knox gold robbery get out? It all started with an article in a New York periodical in 1974. The article charged that the Rockefeller family was manipulating the Federal Reserve to sell off Fort Knox gold at bargain basement prices to anonymous European speculators. 3 days later, the anonymous source of the story, Louise Auchincloss Boyer, mysteriously fell to her death from the window of her 10th floor apartment in New York. How would Mrs. Boyer have known of the Rockefeller connection to the Fort Knox gold heist? She was the longtime secretary of Nelson Rockefeller. For the next 14 years, this man, Ed Durrell, a wealthy Ohio industrialist, devoted himself to a quest for the truth concerning the Fort Knox gold. He wrote thousands of letters to over 1,000 government and banking officials, trying to find out how much gold was really left and where the rest of it had gone.
Edith Roosevelt, the granddaughter of President Teddy Roosevelt, questioned the actions of the government in a March 1975 edition of the New Hampshire Sunday News. Allegations of missing gold from our Fort Knox vaults are being widely discussed in European financial circles. But what is puzzling is that the administration is not hastening to demonstrate conclusively that there is no cause for concern over our gold treasure, if indeed it is in a position to do so.
Unfortunately, Ed Durrell never did accomplish his primary goal, a full audit of the gold reserves in Fort Knox. It's incredible that the world's greatest treasure has had little accounting or auditing. This gold belonged to the American people, not the Federal Reserve and their foreign owners. One thing is certain, the government could blow all of this speculation away in a few days with a well-publicized audit under the searing lights of media cameras. It has chosen not to do so. One must conclude that they are afraid of the truth such an audit would reveal. What is the government?
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there because it could go on and on and on for a while. It goes on 3 or 4 minutes. All right, so if Elon Musk does what he's talking about doing, which is not only auditing the gold inside Fort Knox, but actually live streaming it. You know, like the opening of Al Capone's vaults that Geraldo Rivera did in the 1970s. Brian, what do you think he's going to find in there? Is there going to be shit tons of gold, like way more gold than we ever imagined? Is there going to be a bunch of fake English gold that's been stuffed there to make it look like there's gold there? Or is there going to be nothing except a couple of coins in the corner and some paper on the floor and an old bottle? I mean, which one of those three scenarios do you think is most likely? And I'll tell you why it's important when we get to the end of this, Brain. But go ahead.
Well, I would say first off, I have a buddy that works at Fort Knox. I've known him for a while. He's an older gentleman, really great guy. And I reached out to him yesterday and said, "Hey, man, I want to get in and I want to become a part of this audit. Whatever it takes, can you work your magic and get me in?" He's one of the higher ranking officials that's been there for a very long time. So I've definitely thrown my name into the hopper because it's my backyard and I'm very interested in this. The story of Fort Knox is very interesting. My understanding is that this is from roughly 100 years ago when the federal government said, "Hey, you're not allowed to own gold anymore. Give us all your gold. Sell us all your gold or we're going to get you in trouble." It's a weird universe to realize that that's what this was created for, to confiscate the gold, the actual currency of the United States. And to be here 100 years later with Bitcoin, I listened to an hour and a half long Bitcoin podcast, and they were saying, look, everyone says, "Oh, get away from fiat currency, you got to move to gold." He goes, "This is what happens when you get into gold. You put it in a warehouse, nobody checks on it in 50 or 70 years, and then it disappears and it's sold to the highest bidders, or I'm sorry, the lowest bidders in this case." So I have a million questions about this and just the historical context that this was created from the gold that was seized from the United States citizens roughly 100 years ago. I want to dwell on that component for a second before I even start guessing what may or may not be in there, because my understanding is that you're going to find a lot of things that look like stamped gold bars, but they're actually tungsten bars that are maybe gold plated, gold dipped, spray painted, whatever you want to call it. So I don't know what a audit is going to do unless we're physically pulling the gold bars off in a completely randomized way, sawing them in half in real time, melting them down like we're doing with bourbon barrels to taste for the best in the batch to determine which part of the warehouse you're going to store them in. Looking at pieces of gold isn't going to mean anything. You got to saw them. You have to melt them. And I mean, is that the level of audit we're willing to do? I hope so.
Okay. Steve, this is supposed to be the gold reserves that we have from all the gold that was seized in 1933 under the Gold Act, and it's supposed to be the basis of, the wealth of the United States, one of the major bases of the wealth of the United States. And a lot of people have said it's been gone. It's been given to the overseas creditors, the secret creditors. If we go in there and it's empty, it exposes that this gold has been sent overseas to the Crown of England and the Rothschilds Bank of France and the Vatican Bank. There's stories of flights, people saying there were 650 flights of gold brought back to the U.S. Now, here's the thing. There's supposed to be like 4,000 to 8,000 metric tons in there. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a lot of gold. And this is important because there may be some things happening in terms of finances that Trump wants to do. So do you believe that there's any gold in Fort Knox anymore? You're a connected guy. Have you ever heard any stories about Fort Knox? And I mean, it seems to me that the United States economy collapses if we go in there and there's no gold.
Well, I'm assuming that if they took the actual gold, I'm going to go with Brian, that they actually replaced it with something that looks similar. But one of the things that you have to remember is gold bars, especially gold bars the size that are in the ones that are in Fort Knox. It's a very, very difficult thing to move. It's not like you can put it in your pocket and walk out the door. I mean, it takes some major engineering to move that kind of stuff. So, my thing is, I can't imagine with the way Fort Knox is set up and how it's out in the open that somebody wouldn't notice the movement of something like that over the years. Now, maybe they have. I mean, I haven't kept up on it, but it's a very, very difficult thing to move.
Well, you could drill underground tunnels because the vaults are supposed to be underground, so you could drill underground tunnels and take it all underground.
You
and,
could,
trucks could come out.
but
It's in the
middle of a military base.
Right.
I'm not saying they haven't taken it because supposedly it started leaving years and years ago. So I mean that makes a big difference if they started taking it out back in the 50s. So, but I'm just saying it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Steve, the thing that reminds me of is the Johnny Cash song "Piece by Piece." He works at the auto manufacturer and he steals one piece each day.
Yep.
And at the end of however much time, he builds an entire car because he took it piece by piece. But yeah, I mean, on any long enough timeline, there's no limit to the amount of thievery humans can come up with, for sure.
Blake, any thoughts on this? I mean, the fact that they're auditing this is going to cause a panic. They're auditing the IRS. That is going to be epic. It's going to be the end of the IRS. And we're going to get to Social Security in a minute. But to me, this sounds like the biggest thing that Doge could do, probably the biggest thing to happen to America since 9/11, because we're going to find out one way or another what's going on with the gold in there. Any thoughts, or what do you know about this, and what do you hear about it?
Yeah, I guess that would be like the equivalent of some kind of financial 9/11 that we find out that our gold reserves have all been stolen from us after the government confiscated them back in 33, 34. And that's a great documentary. It's great to see Bill Still. He's a legend, and I actually have that film on DVD, The Money Masters. I think it's almost 3 hours, but it's a very thorough, impeccable research, excellent information, just showing you the history of our financial system. So very cool. I don't, if they haven't done an audit since 1974, I think that's obviously telling. They're hiding something from us, whether it's there or whether it's fake or whether it belongs to someone else or whether there's just a suitcase full of IOUs like Dumb and Dumber. I don't think it's just all there, or we know about it. So do we want to know?
If it is stolen, Blake will happily replace it from his private stocks.
Private cash.
Of course. The Dumb and Dumber IOUs is a great reference. Nice.
Here's why this is important. I'm interested in financial markets and things going on with finance, crypto, and stuff like that. And I've been told that Trump's plan, the plan is over the next 2 weeks, I hear this is going to be executed. That the plan is to, and I was told this before this story broke, that they were going to go into Fort Knox. I was told this like a week ago tomorrow. They're going to revalue gold because all of our gold is valued at $34 an ounce. Okay. And if you don't know, the current price of gold is like $3,000 an ounce. So if we have 8,000, 10,000 metric tons in there, or if we go in there and we find out we have way more than that, but what we officially have in terms of gold in there, if Donald Trump simply says, well, in 1933, we set the price of gold at $34 an ounce in our reserves, and we've always based everything on that. I'm going to change that. We're now going to set it up to the market value, which is $2,993. Guess what? Instantly, overnight, the U.S. national debt of $36 trillion goes down to about $500 billion, and we could pay that off in 2 or 3 months, and there's no national debt left. Simply by saying our gold is going to be valued at the market price. Plus, the fact that we do that is going to send gold skyrocketing, along with silver skyrocketing and crypto.
What's silver at right now, Mike? Where do they have silver?
Silver is around 30. It's around $30 an ounce. It's doing pretty well right now. And so all of a sudden, all of these financial problems that we think we have go away. Now, I understand that is the plan. I was told this last week. That's the plan. And it's going to cause a collapse of the banks, which have paper gold. They're supposed to have like 10% of the gold on hand at any time. So if Steve has gold certificates through Wells Fargo Bank and he walks in and he says, I want my $50,000 worth of gold, they have to be able to hand you that. And they have to keep like 10% of that in reserve. They don't have that. They don't have 1/100th of that gold.
No.
So guess what? Every single one of those major banks is going to go bankrupt instantly. Everybody holding stocks and bonds, guess what? The stock market's going to collapse. The bond market's going to collapse. And then on the State of the Union, which will be a Tuesday night, I believe we'll probably live cast that. Trump supposedly is going to say, now these are just rumors, is going to say, we're going to a gold-backed currency. We're going to get rid of the dollar. We're now going to go to the U.S. Treasury note, and we're going to go gold-backed. Does that sound insane to you guys? I was like, okay, great story.
Preferable.
I'd love to believe that. But then 2 or 5 days later, it leaks out that now they're going to break into Doge is going to go into Fort Knox. They just went into IRS. I mean, if they go into Fort Knox next Monday and find nothing or find way more than they think, it sets all this in motion.
Well, Trump's talking about a sovereign wealth fund, which is really interesting. They're talking about gold-backed currency. They're talking about Bitcoin. What is this going to do to cryptocurrency? I mean, there are a lot of questions. People are saying you're going to get your $1 million Bitcoin now. I don't know if that's true or not, but I hear people saying it. And how can you ever trust what a country ever does if they go in there and they're tungsten bars that are spray painted gold? If it's an empty room with some cobwebs in the corner? What would you do? There would be no faith in the government ever again. That would be the best advertisement for cryptocurrency. So, I mean, a lot of stuff is really primed to take a drastic change in the next couple of weeks. We're moving at warp speed. Yes, I'm using that ironically with Trump administration. But look, everything is happening really fast, and we've been on a slow collision course for 100 years. It's about time we start addressing some of this stuff. It might be weird. It might be painful. Might be full of question marks, but God, let's answer these important questions already and get to the bottom of it.
It'll be scary for a week or so until Trump comes out with a gold-backed currency. Steve, you had something to say.
I was just going to say, I mean, it should be that any bank that you go to, you should be able to take your currency and trade it for gold or silver. When I was a kid, when you were a kid, they had silver certificates, which looked like a dollar bill. You walked into the bank, you handed them the dollar bill that was a silver certificate, and they gave you $1 worth of silver.
Except the print was red, which is the color of a republic, not the green or blue that we have on our money now, which is the color of a democracy, which operates on monopoly, paper money. Anyway, go ahead, Steve.
No, I'm just saying that you should be able to do that. You should be able to take your currency into any bank and trade it for gold or silver. Gold may be a little difficult to hand them $1 and say, give me $1 worth of gold. But the reality is that's the way it should be. And that would let you know that your money actually has value.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I remember just being a little boy when my mom had to turn in her money. I mean, I must have been 4 or 5 because they did that right after they killed Kennedy. So would have been 64, 65. I remember going to the bank with mom and she had to turn her old money in for the new money. She didn't like it very much.
Right. You had to take. Well, I remember, that's why I know about silver certificates, because I had like relatives who would give you $1 silver certificate, and you take it to the bank and exchange it.
Right. Blake, any thoughts on this and my wild ass scenario that I was given? I know it's not really your story, but I mean, do you hear anything interesting along those lines? Or
I know there's going to have to be a plan B because we're going to have to get out of the Federal Reserve System. And if they don't find anything in Fort Knox, then that's going to cause some kind of a crisis. And they're going to have to think outside the box, and where they might have to do the Bitcoin reserve or tie it to some other commodity. That's going to be a major problem. But if it gets us out of the debt and gets rid of the Fed, then that's going to be painful in the short term, but that'll definitely be good to get all this debt off our backs. So we'll see. So
I mean, if we went to a gold-backed currency, that's the end of inflation. That's the end of that's the end of business cycles. That's the end of a lot of economic strife that is all caused by the fiat currency system. Okay.
Well, the stupidity of it is that we're spending more on interest payments than our military budget. No, we are beyond the debt spiral. We would have been cut off a long time ago at the bar if our credit card got declined in this way. There's no way you can pay what we're alleged to owe. It's all coming down one way or another. So I'd rather be proactive than reactive.
But you can, if you just say the gold in Fort Knox, whatever that is now valued at the current market price, not $34 an ounce. Ooh, all of a sudden, we have trillions upon trillions. And we have, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which has got cryptos and foreign currencies. And Donald Trump has made a big deal out of pointing out to people, we have $35 billion worth of Iraqi dinar in our treasury. So yeah, it's going to get really interesting. And the thing I'm telling you guys that I'm hearing is it's going to get really interesting over the next 2 weeks. We shall see. I certainly hope so. Meantime, in France, they're very upset. The women there, ladies, are very upset with us. And this is a Toxically Masculine Tuesday because Donald Trump is a fascist who wants to oppress women. And the final season of, what's that show called? The Handmaid's Tale, the show I've never seen, is coming out soon. So they held a protest in France today. Let's watch their protest. Okay, I just wanted to watch it.
Did you even see that? Good Lord.
It's boobs, so I wanted to watch it over and over again. I did not maximize
I could not see anything. All I saw was this little tiny square.
Well, I did that on
There's a place
purpose.
called France where the naked ladies dance.
Yes,
There's
yeah.
a hole in the
I
wall.
did that on purpose, Steve, because I don't want to like get banned on YouTube or anything for showing boobs. But I will say this as a toxically masculine man. I will say that first girl is solid 7, maybe even an 8, and then it kind of slowly declined. There's like a 6 and a 5, and then we get all the way down to the girl with the tattoos all over everything. But here's the thing I don't understand. Well, you can rate it too. Blake, what would you give that first girl in line?
Well, the first girl was great. She was definitely, I mean, if I had to choose, right? Yeah. I guess that would be an 8 or at least.
Yeah. But what kills me is its protest was in France, and all the writing on their bodies was in English. Like, okay, who are you protesting to? Anybody else have any thoughts about those ladies in France?
Well, it's a good call on that, but I would say I also agree. No, definitely don't put tattoos on your boobs. That's not.
That's just not a good call.
Big turn off. Yeah,
not a good. Tattoos on your nipples just never works. All right. Speaking of Doge, they're into Social Security now. And I saw that there's this guy named Rob Stats Guerrero, used to be on Pro Football Talk, and he's got a neck about a mile long. I call him Pinocchio. And he is the most brainwashed, Trump deranged syndrome libtard out there. And I like to keep him around because I just like to torment him occasionally. But he talked about, this is a great excuse for the Nazi, which is what he calls Trump, to get into Social Security and take away your Social Security rights. And what he's talking about is that Trump read off what Doge has already discovered in just a day or two of looking over the books in Social Security, which is that the vast majority of recipients, not the vast majority, but a huge number of the recipients are over 100 years old. Listen to this. This is wild stuff.
From 120 years old, people that are 120 years old up to 129. 3,472,000 people. Wow. That can't possibly be because the record is I think it's one person, a woman, lived to 127, but they have 3,472. Okay, but now we're going really in. People from 130 years old to 139-year-old. 3,936,000. Wow. I wonder if people are getting paid with all this. I mean, are these checks? And that's what we're checking right now. People from 140 years old to 149 years old, 3,542,000, 140 years old and beyond. Now we're really going because we're looking to break the record by 25 years. People from 150 years old to 159 years old, 1,345,000. These are by the way, these are in the computer files. This is what they do well.
when he talks about breaking the record there, what he's referring to is the oldest person I believe ever believed to have lived was 127 years old. So, Steve, I know you've got a 103-year-old who's getting Social Security and deserves a raise. But between ages 120 to 129, there's 3.5 million people. 4 million people, roughly, between 130 and 139. 3.5 million more between 140 and 149 years old, and 1.35 million 150 to 159 years old on the Social Security books that are receiving checks. That would be 3.5, 7, 10, 11. That's about 12 million recipients who are obviously not alive, almost certainly dead, that are receiving Social Security benefits. This is yet another money laundering scheme. Steve, what do you think about this? And, again, this is billions of dollars in savings if you just stop paying this out. And they're going to find out who these funds are going to. And I guarantee you, once again, the Democrats and the deep state and the intelligence agencies have got their fingers in this. And they've got to be shitting bricks right now that they found out the Social Security the way it's being used.
Well, the reality is that Social Security has a purpose. The purpose is we as U.S. taxpayers pay it in. When we get to a certain age or we become disabled, we get it back, right? So it's not an entitlement. We paid for it. It came
Right.
out of our paychecks. So the fact is that, they're always screaming that the first thing they're going to cut when times get tough is, we're going to cut Social Security. We're going to cut Social Security. Now we see that not only is Social Security a good thing, but Social Security has more than enough money to stay around forever and continue to pay back the American citizens who paid it in. It's just that it's been siphoned off through these illegal means, and whoever was responsible, I don't care if the person is still alive and they are 110 years old, they need to spend their last few minutes in prison for siphoning the money away from the American people. Because like I said, this is not an entitlement. This came out of your paycheck, went into that fund, right? It's like a bank account. I mean, it's a shitty bank account, but it's a bank account. Nobody is giving you anything. This is your money at work, and it has been mishandled, misused, and those people need to go to prison.
I think we're going to get into the tens of hundreds of billions of dollars of abuse on Social Security by the time we get done with it. Brain, what are your thoughts on this? And, I guess I don't know where this story is going. We've now found the fraud. The question now is, who's it going to? And what are we going to do to those people that have been? Because look, let me just tell you, they're pumping all this money overseas to the foreign bankers, and they're using it to fund all kinds of Democrat, libtard, communist causes like the ACLU and Antifa. What do you think's going to happen?
They just found. Sorry, go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Brett.
Go ahead, Steve. Make your point.
I mean, they just found they can't account for $1 trillion that's coming out of the Justice Department. Where was it coming out of?
Department of Education or
I don't know, but $1 trillion, they can't account for one penny of it.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like Donald Rumsfeld right before the towers went down. That sounds
exactly.
eerily familiar. Look, this is pretty obvious. Anybody who has ever had a checkbook or balanced an online account, you audit your shit every week, every couple weeks, every month. That's as far as you go. Once a month, you run your audits. If you're not auditing Social Security, if you don't have a way to track and find out if multiple people are using your Social Security number, if you don't have a way to find out if the same person isn't using multiple Social Security numbers, it's designed theft. It's designed graft, just like you wouldn't audit Fort Knox. Are you kidding me? Those should be nonstop audits every day, every week, every month, whatever, quarterly, every 3 months. You don't go 60 years without looking into this. Anything that's set up to fail is designed to fail for a purpose. And it's that scene from, what was that movie? Was it maybe Independence Day, where they walk into the subterranean and it's gone? They go into the subterranean structure to see all the ancient alien aircraft. He's like, hold on a second. I've never seen any of this stuff in the budget. How in the world do you get the money to finance this? It's completely off the books. He goes, sir, you don't really think we spend $2,000 on a toilet seat, do you? So I know that there's black budget. I know that this stuff is baked in, but they found 2 people in the Social Security system that are older than the United States itself. This is absolute insanity that it took Donald Trump and Elon Musk to run a fucking audit on their on some of the most critical infrastructure pieces, the biggest accounts tied to the United States of America. Oh, it took Orange Man and Rocket Man to make this happen. You gotta be kidding me. It's like we're living in a cuckoo clock and finally emerging from our drunken stupor. It's like we've been on a 3-week bender and we're finally sobering up at a Denny's going, what happened? It's insane.
Blake.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all within like a first month here. So kudos to them that it was that easy to discover all of this fraud, which they could have found at any time. It's no excuse not to notice all of the duplicates or that people were living well over 100, that there's people deceased. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people were also voting. Who knows what they are doing it. So it's definitely big insider scandals that's just been happening for a long time, and no one did anything about it. And now it's all being exposed, and they're all freaking out, and they deserve it. Yeah, I think it goes beyond this. Like it's 2.3 trillion from the Pentagon back in the day. And now I'm seeing like 4.7 trillion perhaps is even unaccounted for because they didn't have. They had the payments. They were making the traceability almost impossible because they lacked the codes for where it was going. So massive slush fund. Yeah, that could be Area 51. It could be any of the black budget stuff that Brian mentioned. Who knows?
Yeah. And the 4.7 isn't it's the 4.7. It just means it's not trackable and traceable. Yeah. It didn't have a 1537151 code attached to it. It could have been spent for normal stuff, but it's shady that it wasn't. But you just have to look at 60 million. There are 60 million more Social Security numbers than living United States citizens. 60 million extra fake people in Biden in Obama's third term that we just emerged from. They allegedly brought in 30 million illegal alien invaders in the last couple of years, and there's 60 million fake Social Security people collecting in the United States, at least signed up with fake numbers. This stuff is absolutely nutty. You cannot run a country if you can't get a basic accounting of how many people are members of your homeowners association, but you're supposed to count up the votes every year when you do your annual elections. Nothing runs this way except the U.S. I'm surprised we're not belly up right now.
Well, we are in essence, but only on paper. So that's the important thing. Couple of news items. Ilhan Omar has been removed from the Foreign Affairs Committee. That's appropriate. She no longer gets any security briefings on anything to do with United States foreign policy or military. That's a good thing. And Kash Patel, they invoked cloture today, and Kash Patel now goes to the floor for a full confirmation vote. I think nothing's going to happen on a lot of judicial fronts and criminal fronts with these people until we get Kash Patel in the FBI offices. But
Mike, is cloture a rubber stamp, or it's likely, or because with everyone else, cloture meant a rubber stamp, essentially.
Invoking cloture in the Senate means you cut off all debate and send the bill or the issue to the floor. There's no more filibustering. That's so that's the vote they took. They had enough votes to do that, and so now we move forward. And if Kash Patel is confirmed, then I think we start with some of the prosecutions and probably get the Epstein Island list within 15 minutes. And so that's going to be a really interesting few days if it gets through. If he actually gets through, and based on the cloture vote, if everybody votes the same way, he will be confirmed on Thursday. Although I don't know why the fuck
same here. Why is this taking so long? I don't get it.
If I was John Thune, the second we had the cloture vote, I'd say, okay, well, since we're all here now, we're going to vote on the nomination and force it. So I don't know why they're not doing that. All right,
but it's interesting that Cash is dead last. Everyone got in before Cash. They're terrified of Cash.
Yep. Yeah, because of what he's going to do with the FBI. So, all
Good.
right,
They need to.
Anybody have any other issues or things they thought were interesting this week that they want to bring up before I go eat dinner? Blake?
Think I'm good on that. There's been some interesting things. We won't get into the weeds with some of the Ashley St. Clair scandals. There's some weird things happening. There's so much. It's a heavy news week, but we'll leave that for
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that they're trying to like disparage Elon Musk's reputation. Look, I'm just going to tell you, ladies, this is Toxically Masculine Tuesday. I'm going to tell you something. Elon Musk is a 1% guy. He's the top 1% of men on this planet. Why? Because he's the richest motherfucker on the planet. That's why. So, among many other things. So, if you want a man like that, you're going to have to accept the reality that he's probably going to fool around. He's probably going to cheat on you. Because men like that, you know, for the average guy, getting a woman in bed or getting a wife is not easy. It's like you got to work at it. You got to play the game right. You got to find the right woman. It's not easy. For men like Elon Musk, it's easy. So you cannot get into a relationship. But as far as I know, Elon's not married. You can't get into a relationship with a guy like that and expect him to be faithful. He's not going to be. So be careful what you wish for, ladies. That's just the reality of the way men are, because guess what? Women, girls, you got dick being thrown at you every minute of every second of every day. If you're on social media, you got your choice of what men. Men, it's not like that. So when you meet a guy, if you really want a guy like that, he's going to fool around with you. That's why I don't think this thing is that big a deal. And I think people just say to themselves, well, I'm sure Trump has plenty of opportunities. That's why they don't really hold him to that high standard. And you can call it patriarchal. You can say anything you want about that, but that's the reality of it. So I don't think this Ashley St. Clair is going to amount to anything. I look at her and I go, yeah, she's pretty cute. You know, I probably would have too. So, right. Steve, any final thoughts or anything you want to add to this conversation?
No, I am just absolutely looking forward to seeing some people go to prison. I'm so sick of watching all these people get a pass. I'm so sick of, working in that area myself and watching people walk away or they get fired and then they go to work for a contractor making twice as much as what they were making prior to the termination. I'm so sick of that stuff. I want to see people going to prison.
Yep. And that's a lot of people are that way. We're done with the investigations. Let's just start sending people to prison. And it is interesting that not only are like half of the houses in Washington, D.C. and the surrounding areas on sale right now, the top search engine results, I should have brought this up with a graphic, is like, statute of limitations, criminal lawyer. They're all getting ready to hire lawyers to defend themselves because of what's coming. Brain, any final thoughts before you go off?
Yeah, they're looking for offshore bank accounts. They're looking for criminal defense attorneys. Yeah. Everybody's listing their home for sale. The jig is up and it's glorious. Steve, these people have got to go to jail. They've been pirates looting our treasure for decades and decades. Finally, Lord willing, the chickens will be coming home to roost. I like the J.D. Vance, a couple other stories that I followed this week on the TNAM AM show and the Agree to Disagree on the New American Media, if anybody wants to go check that out. But I like that J.D. Vance went into the belly of the beast in Europe, and he called them commies to their face and said, I don't know what shared values you think we have if you're censoring free speech. That was crucial to hear. And you also have President Trump's people, Marco Rubio and others, negotiating a potential peace deal with Ukraine without Zelensky in the room because he's a comedian puppet. And look, let's go ahead and negotiate an end to that, and let's get those rare earth minerals, because you weren't getting that money for free, pal. You were selling something. You just didn't know it. You're a figurehead. You're a puppet. You're going to do as we say. We're taking those rare earth minerals to pay off the debt. You didn't get all those hundreds of billions for free. We're going to sign the deal. We're going to get the deal. And it's a really dangerous time for Zelensky, because I think he's been coddled with Victoria Nuland, Barack Hussein Obama, Joe Biden for a long time. And I think the stark reality of him realizing that he's very expendable, I think he needs to be very careful. I'm obviously not threatening him. I'm just saying I don't see that he's going to last very long because he knows where the accounts are. He knows how this was put together. He is way too dangerous to stay out there. So just keep your eyes peeled on Zelensky in Ukraine. Hopefully we can negotiate a peace deal and stop the senseless meat grinder over there. But yeah, a lot of overseas intrigue that piqued my interest this week.
Yeah, it was. We should have covered the JD Vance thing. He really just took Europe to town, and they're like, "Well, we're going to go form our own NATO." And I think Trump's sitting there going, "Fine with me. All your money's cut off. Have a good one. Meantime, I'm going to negotiate a peace deal between Zelensky and Putin." So, which interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for tonight. Everybody have a great night. Going to be back with Jen tomorrow, if she's still speaking to me because of what I said about women pilots. Be back with Jen tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern for the morning show, Tell the Truth Wednesday, and then I'll be doing Whiskey and Wisdom, where I'm sure the France protest is going to come up, among other things, tomorrow night. Join me there. Brian, you go have a great night. Brain, go have a great night. Your second, and use my joke, bro. I'm just telling you. It'll get a laugh.
Yeah, I'll see if I can work them into these note cards. I'll see if I can scribble on the back of one of them about that. I'll see what I can do.
Steve, thanks for being here. Hope everything's great in Arkansas. Blake, thank you very much. As always, we'll see you guys next Tuesday. And yeah, the State of the Union in 2 weeks is going to be an interesting Tuesday night show, especially if what people are telling me is going to happen actually happens in the next 2 weeks. It'll be pretty wild. So, all right, guys, have a great one. Thanks.